The Minnesota Museum of American Art, the M for short, has been around for over 100 years, and its American art collection highlights work from the 19th century to the present. The M holds more than 5,000 artworks that showcase the unique voice of American artists in work that reflects the constantly shifting landscape that defines the American experience. During this virtual reality tour, explore the depth and breadth of the M's collection in 100 years and counting. An exhibition mounted at the M in winter 2019. This exhibition is organized around great art and arresting moments of comparison among artworks from many different eras, genres, media, and perspectives. We begin our walkthrough of the 100 Years and Counting exhibition with this striking piece by Frank Big Bear. Aim and Art is a multi panel collage on paper that consists of 144 images, including pictures of contemporary Native American leaders and artists. Frank Big Bear grew up on the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota and discovered his creativity at an early age. After moving to Minneapolis in his teens and studying art at the University of Minnesota, he made a living as a cab driver, describing himself as an urban Indian. AIM, or the American Indian Movement, was founded in Minneapolis in 1968 to help Native Americans who were displaced from their reservations and struggling to adjust to life in the Midwest urban centers. AIM and Art is Big Bear's homage to AIM's founders and activists, such as Winona LaDuke and Leonard Peltier. Next, we have an untitled landscape by Theo Nguyen, a Minnesota artist born in Vietnam. What first looks to be a photograph is actually a painting. You must get close to make out the brushstrokes and colors that bring this piece to life. We stand looking at a farm in winter. Leafless trees, brown and yellow, brittle grasses, scattered patches of snow, and an icy white sky. In the artist's words, "As an immigrant and an artist, I have learned to embrace the American spirit of freedom that says if you see a road that interests you, go ahead, venture down it. Even so, I am always a stranger to what I see. Always slightly outside, finding in what is ordinary to others something tender and strange. It is from that vantage point that I have explored the Middle West, where the beauty that lies between the earth and the sky mesmerizes me. I venture to the end of dirt roads to discover what lies there, and return with a sketch or just a memory." Paul Manship gives us a two-part story with his bronze sculptures Diana and Actaeon, which depict the age-old story of female empowerment recounted in Ovid's Metamorphosis. Diana, the virgin goddess of the moon and the hunt in Roman mythology, was bathing with her female attendants in a hidden wooded spring when the hunter Actaeon came upon her. Furious that she had been seen naked by a mortal man, Diana turned Actaeon into a stag, who was then chased down and torn to pieces by his previously faithful hounds. The sculptures were positioned in the exhibition to show the trajectory of Diana's arrow as it hit Actaeon, slowly turning him into a stag with budding antlers and stag's ears, and the moment his hounds begin to viciously attack him. Minnesota Ojibwe artist George Morrison's collage, Landscape, was created using found wood. The M owns 82 artworks by Morrison, the largest and most comprehensive body of this artist's work anywhere. This pristine relief collage belongs to a series of large, impressive woodworks that Morrison created from the late 1960s to the early 1980s. While teaching at the Rhode Island School of Design in the 60s, Morrison began making collages with driftwood found on the Atlantic shore. After he returned to Minnesota in 1970, Morrison used weathered wood from Lake Superior, near his home on the Grand Portage Indian Reservation, to create reliefs that are both abstract and deeply embedded in the natural world. The work is characteristic of Morrison's landscapes, with the horizon line clearly delineated near the top of the composition. Scarification is a large, powerful drawing by the sculptor Alexander Calder. Drawings were always very important to Calder, existing alongside his sculptures, which included wire, abstract, kinetic mobiles, and their still counterpoints, stabiles. Drawing was, in fact, central to Calder's early studies at the Art Students League in New York City in 1923, and his work as an illustrator for the National Police Gazette in 1925. In this drawing from 1967, Calder refers to the process of scarification, the performance of a superficial incision in the human skin to create a lasting mark. It can be seen in many cultures throughout the world as a ritualistic practice indicating family lineage or ethnic or tribal identity. It may also have therapeutic, protective, or spiritual qualities. Colonizers also used such practices both to mark and identify people they enslaved. We don't know exactly why Calder called this drawing scarification. It could be in reference to the bold, swirling lines that decorate the face of this figure. But with a 20th century history of Western artists using visual references from other cultures, it could also tie to aspects of colonialism and cultural appropriation. Calder isn't here, so we can't ask him about his intentions, but we can bring awareness to the meaning of the symbols that are used in his drawing to tell a more complete story. Simon Sparrow was a street evangelist living in Madison, Wisconsin in the late 1980s when he began to create massive mixed media assemblages like this one. He said that his art was a channel for divine forces to speak through him, and claimed he often didn't even know the exact meaning of the final artwork. Born in West Africa and raised on a Cherokee reservation in North Carolina, Sparrow was self-taught. He didn't attend art school and appears not to have been influenced by mainstream art. In Untitled Assemblage, Three Figures with Lamb, Sparrow alludes to Christian iconography, a lamb, plus three figures that may very well represent the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but he also references West African spiritual traditions that emphasize the belief in spirit beings and magic. Sparrow was especially fond of materials that appear to glow from within, like glitter, pearls, and gold, lending the piece its own life force. Combined with the mysterious, unexplained forms and figures emerging from the shimmering composition, the work takes on a life of its own, an intoxicating mixture of the sacred and the profane. This photo is from Wing Young Huey's Looking for Asian America series. For this series, Huey worked in the tradition of legendary American road trip photographers like Robert Frank, but with a pointedly Asian American perspective. Many of the photographs capture mundane moments from everyday life. As Huey has stated, for Asian Americans, it is extraordinary to be merely ordinary. This photograph was taken in Locke, California. Ping Li sits in the classroom, in fact, at the very same desk where he studied as a child. This picture speaks to the long history of Asian Americans in the United States. The map of the world on the wall playfully reiterates the overall mission of Huey's Asian-centric series. Unlike most maps commonly found in the United States, Asia, not Europe, is placed at its center. The soft lighting streaming through the windows evokes quiet but deep reflection, and provokes questions about the nature of identity, nostalgia, and belonging. Wendy Red Star is a multimedia artist known for bringing the creative traditions of her Crow ancestors into contact with new styles, creating mashups of historical and contemporary influences. Here, Northern Plains Indian powwow regalia is mixed with 1960s science fiction movie costumes. The title of this piece, Hoop in the Cloud, and the series it comes from, called Thunder Up Above, refers to the names of two people Red Star found in a Crow census database. Red Star chose these names for their connection to the past, but also for their futuristic visuals the names conjure. Red Star imagines a utopian world in which cultural hybridity is cast with positivity and optimism, and where the confines of colonialism and Indian reservations have been removed. Her work fights against the stereotype that Native culture has not changed since the 19th century and combats feelings of alienation and otherness that are a result of Native American depictions by non-Native artists and ethnographers. Finally, we examine a photograph by Alec South, titled Bryan, Williston, North Dakota, from 2012. This photograph was included in a New York Times article, The Luckiest Place on Earth, published on January 13, 2013. For this assignment, Soth spent a week traveling through North Dakota, documenting the oil boom that erupted there following the widespread use of fracking. Crossing the line between fine art and documentary photography, and with an eye for humor as well as loneliness, South's photographs from this series scrutinized the socioeconomic landscape and filthiness of the oiling industry. The man pictured here was employed by Raven Drilling, and his excited optimism about his job prospects is in stark contrast to the gloomy landscape we observe outwardly. I went from floor hand to now I'm on the derrick and starting to run a rig, so I've kind of got my mindset on company man or tool pusher. We hope you've enjoyed these select artworks from the M's permanent collection, featured in the exhibition 100 Years and Counting. We hope the artworks challenged your expectations of the American experience in meaningful ways and offered you a unique space for considering the diversity of viewpoints and cultural perspectives that have shaped our American identity from the 1920s to today.